You never really know how peaceful life can be until someone like Karen moves in next door. It was early summer, warm, bright, the kind of weekend where the world just feels lighter. My lake cabin had always been my escape from the noise of the city and, ironically, from the headaches of the HOA. The lake was on my private property, clearly marked on the deed. But apparently, the HOA board, led by the ever-righteous Karen, had other ideas. That Saturday morning, my family and a few friends came over for a small get-together. Nothing wild. We set up folding chairs near the lake, a portable grill, some music playing softly. The sound of laughter, clinking ice, and kids skipping stones filled the air. Then I heard it, that sharp, clipped voice cutting through the breeze. "Excuse me, excuse me! What do you think you're doing?" I turned around, and there she was, Karen, marching across the grass like a mall cop on a mission. Sun visor, clipboard, and a look that could sour milk. "You can't host events like this on HOA property," she barked. "Morning to you too," I said, half smiling. "This isn't HOA property, this is my lake." She gave a short, disbelieving laugh. "Oh, please. The lake belongs to the community." I gestured toward the faded private property sign posted near the dock. "Actually, it doesn't. The HOA boundary stops 40 feet that way. This area, including the lake, is mine." Her face stiffened. "We'll see about that. The board will hear about this." My guests went quiet. The air, moments ago light and cheerful, turned heavy. Karen glared at us like we were criminals enjoying a picnic on stolen land. She pulled out her phone, snapping pictures of my guests, my grill, even my kids. "You're violating several HOA guidelines," she said, tapping away furiously. "Unauthorized gathering, noise, lake contamination." "Lake contamination?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "We're making burgers, not dumping oil." She ignored me and walked off muttering, "You'll regret this." Everyone looked at me. I just shook my head and smiled. "Don't worry," I said. "She's all talk." But later that night, when I walked outside, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A freshly posted HOA sign at the lake's entrance. "Community lake, no trespassing without permit." Karen had declared war. By morning, my quiet lakefront retreat looked like a construction zone for stupidity. Karen had gone all out. She'd planted new HOA property signs near the dock, yellow rope along the waterline, and a laminated notice stapled to one of my trees, all claiming the community had rights to the lake. It would have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating. I walked down to the water, coffee in hand, and spotted her already there. Clipboard tucked under her arm, barking orders at 2 HOA volunteers who clearly didn't want to be there. "Put that sign closer to the shore," she snapped. "We need to establish clear community access zones." I cleared my throat. "Morning, Karen. Doing a little trespassing before breakfast?" She turned sharply, lips pursed. "We're enforcing HOA policy. This lake falls under community jurisdiction." "You keep saying that," I replied calmly. "But unless you've redrawn the county map overnight, this lake's still on my private land." Karen's nostrils flared. "You can't just claim the lake for yourself. It's connected to the community pond. Therefore, it's communal water." I couldn't help but laugh. "Karen, by that logic, every cloud in the sky belongs to you too." Her face went bright red. "I'll be filing an official complaint. And until this is resolved, no one is allowed to use this lake. Not even you." I took a slow sip of coffee. "You really want to play this game?" She smirked. "Already am." That afternoon, 2 HOA members delivered a violation notice to my front door. According to their letter, I was fined $500 for unauthorized use of shared water features. I could barely believe it. She wasn't just being petty. She was trying to legally box me out of my own property. I decided to get ahead of it. I pulled out my land deed, property map, and even called the county zoning office. The clerk confirmed it. The lake, dock, and 15 feet around it were entirely mine. HOA had zero authority. I called Karen and put her on speaker. "Karen," I said, "just wanted to let you know I spoke to the county. They confirmed, my lake, my land, no HOA jurisdiction." "You can't possibly think that changes anything," she snapped. "It changes everything," I said, "because the next time you or your board step foot here, that's trespassing." For once, she didn't have a comeback, but I knew Karen. She wasn't done yet. And sure enough, I was right. Because the next weekend, when my guests came back for another quiet barbecue, she showed up again. This time she brought backup. It was Saturday afternoon again. The smell of grilled burgers, soft music, and the sound of kids laughing by the dock. For a few hours, it almost felt normal again. Almost. Then I saw her, Karen, marching down the hill in her wide-brimmed visor, oversized sunglasses, and an HOA badge hanging from a lanyard like she was some kind of authority figure. But this time, she wasn't alone. 2 board members trailed behind her, holding clipboards like sidekicks in a bad courtroom drama. My guests fell silent as she stormed toward the dock. "All right, everyone," she called out, clapping her hands. "This area is officially closed to the public. You're all going to have to leave immediately." One of my friends, Eric, raised an eyebrow. "Public? We were invited here." Karen ignored him and started snapping photos again. "These will go straight to the board. We'll issue trespassing fines if you don't vacate." I stood, calm but boiling inside. "Karen, you've been told before. This is my private property." She gave a dramatic laugh. "Oh, please. You can't own a lake. That's not how it works." I held up the deed, a neatly folded document I'd started carrying just for moments like this. "Actually, it is how it works. County records, signed and sealed. This lake, and 15 feet around it, belong to me. Legally." Her smirk faltered for the first time. "That's impossible," she muttered, stepping closer. "Want to read it?" I said, unfolding the document and pointing at the map. She hesitated, then took it. As her eyes moved across the lines and signatures, the color drained from her face. That's not right," she whispered. "It's perfectly right," I replied. "You've been trespassing on private property, Karen, repeatedly." The board members behind her looked uncomfortable. One of them whispered, "Karen, maybe we should step back and review." "No," she barked. "He can't just claim the lake." I stepped forward, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "You've embarrassed yourself enough. Walk away while you still can." Her jaw tightened. She threw the paper back at me and hissed, "You'll regret talking to me like that." Then she turned, heels digging into the dirt, and stormed back up the hill, her little HOA entourage trailing behind like lost puppies. Everyone stood there for a moment, stunned. Eric broke the silence. "Dude, I thought she was going to explode." I laughed, but deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Karen never quit while she was losing. That night, my phone buzzed with an email notification. Subject line, "Notice of property review, emergency HOA meeting." She was planning something big. The emergency meeting was scheduled for Monday morning, on my property. Yeah, you read that right. Karen had sent an HOA-wide email inviting every board member to inspect the lake to determine its rightful boundaries. By 10 a.m., there were SUVs lined up along the dirt road, clipboards, coffee cups, Karen at the center, strutting like she was hosting a press conference. I stood on my porch, sipping my own coffee, waiting. I had already contacted the county surveyor and the local sheriff's department. Both confirmed what I already knew, that Karen and her HOA had no jurisdiction here. But Karen wasn't interested in facts. She was out for revenge. She marched straight toward me, voice raised for everyone to hear. "We're here to establish HOA authority over this shared lakefront." I smirked. Funny, because according to county law, this shared lakefront starts 30 feet past your property line. I gestured toward the fresh survey markers that glowed bright orange in the grass. Karen froze mid-step. The surveyor's truck was still parked beside the gate, official seals shining in the sunlight. The board members began murmuring among themselves. "Wait, so we don't own this part?" one asked. Karen's face flushed red. "He bribed someone. He's faking this." I shrugged. "You can call the sheriff if you'd like. He's on his way already." Right on cue, a county patrol car turned down the road. Karen's panic was almost cinematic, her hands flying to her head, pacing in disbelief. And then, as if Karma herself was tired of waiting, it happened. One of the HOA board members had parked Karen's brand new SUV a little too close to the creek's embankment. The ground, softened by last night's rain, began to give way. Slowly at first, then faster. Someone yelled, "Karen, your car!" We all turned just in time to see the front tires sink, the back end tilt, and the entire SUV slide nose first into the shallow creek with a loud splash. Silence. Karen screamed. A high-pitched sound that echoed across the lake. She ran toward it, waving her arms, slipping in the mud, shrieking at anyone who dared to laugh. The sheriff arrived just as the tow truck was called. He looked at me, then at the scene and sighed. I'm guessing this was one of those HOA disputes again? I nodded. You could say that. Karen stood beside her half-submerged car, covered in mud, shouting about legal action. The sheriff simply handed her a card. Ma'am, you might want to file an insurance claim instead. She froze. Truly froze this time. No more shouting, no more power, just the sound of water dripping from her ruined SUV. As the tow truck pulled away, I turned to the board members. Meeting adjourned? They didn't say a word, just nodded and left. Later that evening, the sunset reflected off the now quiet lake. My guests laughed again, music playing softly. The chaos was over, at least for now. I leaned back, smiling to myself. She tried to take the lake, I muttered, and ended up in it instead. And with that, peace finally returned to my private land. Don't forget to subscribe to Karen Edition for more dramatic HOA and Karen stories. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button. Which moment shocked or impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments below.